Hello reader friends and welcome to day 5 of BOOKMAS. Today we are going to be going through the best and worst books that I read in 2023. Now, I had quite a bit of amazing reads. I really did have some goodies this year, but I also had some very harsh letdowns. And a lot of my letdowns are actually very unpopular opinions because some of them are fairly well-loved books or just kind of hyped up books. So just getting right into it, I'm first going to be sharing my worst reads of 2023. I'm going to start, I think, with the ones I read in the beginning of the year and then kind of going up to like my more recent reads. So my very first major letdown of the year will come as a surprise to probably a lot of people, and that is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I really just hated this book. I can understand and I can definitely see like how a lot of people really like it, but for me, I was just really annoyed and like, I don't know, I just didn't think the plot twist and the reveal was as well done as I had heard. Like, it is a good plot twist, but I feel like when the entire book is written from like a certain point of view and it like ends up not being the person that you thought that you were reading the point of view from, like that just really threw me off and I didn't like that at all. So I don't know, this one's very hard for me to articulate my feelings and thoughts like and put that into words. I rated this one 2 stars. Honestly, I kind of want to reread it though and see if, now that I have thought about it and read some reviews and whatnot, I wonder if I still would feel the same way if I reread it. The second really harsh letdown that I had was Mockingjay. This is the 3rd book in the Hunger Games series. Now, this one was a very big surprise because I absolutely loved the 1st and 2nd books, and I really liked all 3 of the movies, or I guess all 4, so isn't the last one like 2 parts? But anyway, this was a shock to me, honestly. When I was reading the 3rd book, I was just the entire time so annoyed and so frustrated because I just felt like the pacing was just all over the place, and like right when it starts to get intense, like we get pulled out of that intense moment and like get thrown back into like, okay, we're gonna like chill for a little bit and then we're gonna be like super intense and then we're like not gonna be super intense, and I just felt like I was getting pulled all over the place, and we didn't even see any of Katniss and Peeta's like ending until literally like the epilogue when there was like, oh, by the way, everything worked out fine. And it's like, okay, but I would have liked to kind of see that process a little bit more, you know? I also rated that one 2 stars. Yeah, that one I was really upset about because, as I said, I just loved the 1st and 2nd books. This next one I didn't hate, but it was kind of just like way less than I was expecting. And that one is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. I gave this one 3 stars, but thinking back on it, I feel like I probably could have given it like a 2.75 because I just feel like it was so ridiculously slow and the mystery and the reveal like wasn't even that interesting for me. In my review, I'm pretty sure I said that I was surprised this wasn't a YA book because of how just like basic it was and how like not intense it was. I don't know, for it to be a Riley Sager book, I feel like this was just like the most subtle mystery for Riley Sager, and I just wasn't very intrigued by it. The next one is also one that will come as a surprise to some, and that one is None Shall Sleep. I gave this one 3 stars. I don't know. I feel like I had really high expectations for this book. I don't feel like the mystery was that good. Like, it kind of gave me The Naturals vibes, but it was nowhere near The Naturals. Like, The Naturals was my favorite series, is one of my favorite series, like, of all time. And this one, like, had similar vibes because they are, like, teenagers helping with the FBI, but it just was not done nearly as well. This one, I also felt like it was just kind of boring. And see, okay, this is my thing with, like, mystery and thrillers. I feel like if you're going to create a character who is the villain or the person who is guilty of the murders or whatever, I feel like you should at least have that person like more in the story, and you should be like somewhat understanding and connecting to that character, or just hear at least a little bit more on them throughout the story. And so in None Shall Sleep, I feel like this person was in the story, but it was like barely a thought in the story. And then till the very, very end when it was like, oh, by the way, this is the killer. So I was just very let down by that one. Oh, this one will be a surprise. I mean, it won't if you've been watching my channel and you know that I didn't DNF this book, but to all those who liked this book or have heard amazing things about this book, this might come as a shock to you. But I DNF'd The Last Word by Taylor Adams this year. This book... So like, think your average slasher film, which I love, and then put into a book, but instead of it just being like fun and kind of cheesy and entertaining, it's like super cringy and very predictable. That's how I feel about this book. Like, I was really excited to read this because I heard that it was just very fast paced, it was very thrilling, it was very like slasher film-esque. And I was like, great, I love that. But then reading it, it was just so predictable. It was so cringy. I just didn't like it, like, at all. I got 65, I think, % of the way through, and I was like, I do not want to waste another minute of my life reading this book because it was just so dumb. For me, which kind of sucks because I really want to read No Exit by Taylor Adams, but after reading The Last Word, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. But then I also want to read No Exit because I'm like, what if The Last Word was just a flop for me and I actually really end up liking No Exit? So I don't know. Like, I definitely don't have an opinion about this author, so to say. This book was definitely not for me. My next one was probably the most heartbreaking for me because I loved the first 2 books in this series, and then the third one just completely ruined it. And I wanted to just DNF the whole series, the 3rd book and the 4th book, because there's only 4 books in that series. So it was very sucky for me. And that is Escaping from Houdini. This is the 3rd book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. Let me tell ya, the first 2 books in the series, some of my favorites. They're actually on my favorites for this video. So, great, loved. This one, absolutely not. And the reason is because in this book, it strayed away from the mysteries and the cute little romance that was going on. And there was like still a mystery, but it wasn't as good. And there was a ton of romance drama thrown in that I just absolutely hated and thought was extremely irrelevant to the plot. I mean, it was a little bit relevant, but I feel like to the extent that it went was extremely irrelevant, and it was just really annoying instead of like adding anything to the plot. So this one was rough to get through, but I finished it and I rated it 2 stars. And I'm actually gonna finish the 4th one tonight, and I think I'm only gonna rate that one like 3 stars because it again had just romance drama that I don't care about. But anyway, yes, so this was very sad. And literally if the romance drama wasn't in there, then I probably would have enjoyed this book a lot more, but it was just nowhere near as good as the 1st and 2nd one. My next letdown, and one of the ones that I just really did not enjoy this year, was Ace of Spades. I did talk about this already in previous videos, so if you want to see that, then you can click the little, I'll like tag it up above. But this one was just not at all what I was expecting or anticipating, and I felt like the mystery and the plot was just very much lacking, and it wasn't really interesting until like the very end. So this one I also gave 2 stars. I think I gave this one like a 2.5 or 2.75. I can't remember. But either way, it was just a very big letdown for me, unfortunately. And then my last worst read of 2023 was An Unwanted Guest. This one I read in, I think, like my holiday reading vlog that I somewhat recently posted this month. But this one, I think I rated like a 2.5, but this one was just so slow. Like there was like literally nothing very interesting about it. The characters weren't super likable. Like I just never really connected to anyone. And the story is written in like 3rd person, but it's like following every single character. So it was just very hard to get into at the beginning of the book, and then it was really hard to follow because it would never say like who you're following. It would just jump from like Emily's doing this and thinking this, and then Chad is doing this and thinking this, and like that's just like how the whole story went. And I really did not like the format, I guess, that it was written in. So that, yeah, big letdown, unfortunately. So now that we're done with the worst reads of 2023, now we're going to get into the best reads of 2023. I'm so excited because I get to talk about some of my favorite books. So I'm gonna go from, again, the ones I read at the beginning of the year, and then I'm going to work my way up to the ones I read recently. So the first one that I really enjoyed this year was Dial A for Aunties, or Aunties, however you want to say it. This one I gave 4 stars, and this one I love seeing like the family dynamic, the culture in that book. It was so fast paced and so funny. Like I was laughing and like my heart was racing like the entire book. And the little romance that we did get was really cute. And even though it was like a funny, lighthearted, cute mystery, like I felt like the actual mystery was still done pretty well. And then my next favorite read of the year was done by the queen herself, and that is 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. This one, after reading A Good Girl's Guide to Murder in 2022, I just fell in love with Holly Jackson. And when I saw that this was coming out in 2023, I flipped. I was so excited, and rightfully so, because this became one of my favorite books of 2023. So this one follows our main character, Red. She is taking like a spring break trip or something with a couple of her friends in an RV. And so they're driving this RV to, I don't know, some location. And they end up getting like pretty much run off the road in a way, and they end up getting like stuck somewhere. And things just get very scary from then on because somebody's like obviously targeting them. So this one I feel like was done very well because it is pretty much told in real time. So it took me about 7 or so hours to read this, and the whole book is done over a span of like 8 hours. So each chapter, or I think it is each chapter, is like a different hour. So each section starts at the hour. And so for it to be done in real time and all be set literally in one location in the RV, I feel like it was still so interesting, so fast paced, and to not even change locations or times or anything, and for it to be like that bingeable, I feel like was done very well. Holly Jackson, I will literally eat up everything that this author writes. And next we have the Housemaid Duology by Frida McFadden. These kind of popped off this year, to be honest. Like these went kind of crazy. And again, rightfully so, because they are so good. But pretty much what this is about is this girl, Millie. I'm mixing it up with the maid. Millie is the main character in the story, and she is kind of in a bad situation. She doesn't have a good job, or doesn't have a job at all. I'm pretty sure she's like living in her car, so she just like needs work. So she gets hired as a maid in like this rich family's house. But the wife is like psychotic and doing a bunch of crazy things and acting super weird towards Millie, and like something's obviously going on, but she also realizes that her door locks from the outside. So something's sketchy. Something's obviously going on. So throughout the book, you're kind of just figuring out what that is. And then in the second book, I honestly can't even really like say anything about the second book without spoiling the first book. So just take my word for it and please read these books because they are so good. I rated both of them 5 stars. And these were like, I'm doing a yearly like bracket to see what my favorite book of the year was. And these ones are like nearing the top. I think it's between these ones and whatever wins for like the second half of the year. So good. So the next one that I have is Defy Me, and this is the 5th book in the Shatter Me series. This series is just so good, and I just love Juliet and Warner so ridiculously much. I was actually like thinking about these books the other day because I was making this list, and I was like, I miss this world and these characters so much. Like Warner is the ultimate book boyfriend. Like I don't know if anyone will ever top him. Nobody has thus far. To be honest, I can't even remember what this book specifically is about because it kind of all started to blur together. All I remember is I literally sobbed at the end of this book, so if that gives any hints. I will say though, I really hated the 4th book in the series, and I haven't even finished the very last book in the series, or the last novella, because the very last book, which is Imagine Me, that one, it's literally strictly just war and chaos and bloodshed, and like it was just a lot for my brain, and I just didn't feel like I was like in a spot that I would like to consume that kind of content, you know? So I've been waiting to finish that one, then I'll be done completely with the series. But oh my gosh, this book, I will say, you can read the first 3 books and just be done and not even bother with the last 3 books because, I mean, quite frankly, I don't think you need to read the last 3 books. But this one was so good. Okay, next I have another Frida McFadden book, and that is Never Lie. This one, so pretty much what happens is there's this couple who is looking to move, and they are going to a certain house to tour it. and there ends up being a big snowstorm that hits, and they end up being like trapped in the house and like having to stay in that house for the weekend until they can get their car like shoveled out or something. But this house used to belong to a girl who went missing and who was never found again. So throughout this book, you're kind of trying to figure out what happened to the missing girl and how that connects to like what's happening now, like with them being in the house and stuff. It's very crazy, and I loved the plot twist of these. I felt like this book was pretty fast paced. I gave it, I think, a 4-star, and it was very good, like wintry vibes. I think I read this one maybe at the very beginning of spring, so I read it a little bit late in the season. I do think that this is a very, very perfect wintry read. So if you haven't picked it up yet, you definitely should while it's like cold and snowy out. The next one I rated 4 stars, and that is The Love Hypothesis. This was the first Ali Hazelwood that I had picked up, and I loved it so much. I'm a big like STEM person. I just love science and math and like all that fun sciencey stuff. And I love rom-coms, so I ate it up. I just thought it was so cute. I don't know what else to say about it besides I was like giddy, and I loved the scienciness and the academia-ness of it. It was just so much fun. Ooh, the next one, mwah. And that is the Mind F series. So imagine there is a girl, and she is a serial killer for reasons. Like, she has her reasons though, and they make sense. But anyway, the serial killer ends up dating the FBI agent who is working her case, and he has no idea. Stop, get out of here. Oh, so good, so good. Literally 5 stars, 5-star series, but lots of triggers. Very, very trigger warning heavy. So please look at those before you go into these books, because I did not expect that at all, and I was very caught off guard and taken aback by it, and I had to take a break for like a few days, because I actually did binge the series in like a week, because each book I think is only like 100 to 200 pages, so very short books, but phenomenal. Loved. Oh, the next one. When you're thinking of your book of the year, I feel like nonfiction and fiction are like 2 different categories. Like, if you read a lot of nonfiction and fiction, I feel like you can have 2 favorite books of the year because they're just different, you know? And for my nonfiction book of the year, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Please read this. If you haven't read this, please read it. If you're a Christian, if you're not a Christian, if you're spiritual, if you believe in God, if you don't, I don't care. Please pick this up, because it has so many life lessons and so many just words of wisdom that I think every person needs to hear in their life. I could rant about that all day, but all I'm gonna say is buy it. Or let me buy it for you, because I will. Next, I have When in Rome. This one is so cute. It follows our main characters, Amelia and Noah. Amelia is pretty much like the T Swift of this book. She is like a huge pop star, very famous, and she kind of just, I don't even remember why she goes to Rome, Kentucky. She just like needs a break or something. So she is driving to Rome, Kentucky, and I think her car breaks down in front of someone's house, and it ends up being Noah's house. And throughout this whole book, we just kind of see Amelia and Noah's relationship blossom, or lack thereof, in the beginning, and I feel like it's kind of a slow burn, because you really don't see them like together until kind of towards more of the end. But their banter, their relationship, the way that they just like get under each other's skin but also like crave to know more about each other, I don't know, it's just the cutest thing, and I just loved them so much. And this book was just the most perfect like summer reading book. I read this on a camping trip, and it was oh, so bomb. Yeah, I rated that one 5 stars. I don't know if I said that or not, but I rated it 5 stars. And I have Practice Makes Perfect on my shelf, and I'm ready to pick this up. I'll probably read this around Valentine's Day, just because I feel like, I don't know, it'd be a cute one to read on Valentine's Day. So after that, oh, my favorite series. After that, I read the Natural series. I actually don't have the first book in this series, because I think I listened to it on audiobook, and I just like never actually bought the physical copy, but I don't know what else to say about this series besides it's perfect. I love you so much. I had the best time with these books. Truly teenage Criminal Minds, but so much better and in book form. I loved these characters. I loved the mystery. It got a little bit too complex and a little bit confusing in part of this book and part of this book, which are the last two. And I feel like, I don't know, there was a few things that I didn't necessarily love about this book, but I still rated it like a 4.75. It definitely took a very weird turn in this book and this book, the third and fourth ones. Like I was definitely a little bit thrown off by it and was like, what is happening? But it was still literally so good. And I still rated this one 5 stars. Wait, this one 5 stars. I think this was 5 stars. This one was 4.5. No, 4.75. And then the first one I think was like 4 stars. 5-star series. Love. So good. Please pick it up. And then the next one that I loved. Okay, yeah, Hunger Games and Catching Fire. I read this series for the first time like ever in my life back in, I think it was like summer of this year, and I just had such a good time. Like, it was nice because I have watched all the movies and I really like the movies, and so like whenever things were happening I could kind of imagine. Oh god, you scared me, Squish. I could kind of like imagine what was going on. I don't know, it was just a lot of fun. And then I also watched The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes like last week or 2 weeks ago, and now I really want to read that book, so that'll probably be on my 2024 TBR. The next ones that I absolutely loved were Harry Potter 6 and 7. If you can't tell, I read a lot of childhood favorites this year. All of the other ones I still really liked and enjoyed, but I feel like some of them just really dragged on, and some of them like just did not need to be as long as they were, but they were still so freaking cozy and just so fun and such a perfect fall read. But these two, I felt like I was just so intrigued the entire time, and I could literally sit down and like binge these books even though they're extremely long. But I don't know, like I said, I had a really good time. I loved it. I thought it was very fun, and I liked these two the most out of the whole series. My next favorite books that I read, I kind of already talked about, but that is the first and second books of the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. This one I think I gave 4 stars, and then this one I gave 5 stars, or 4.75. Either way though, I had such a good time with these. I don't usually read historical fiction, but these ones were so much fun. This is like a historical YA mystery with like a little bit of romance. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of like a funny little romance, but I actually ended up really loving the characters. It's Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell. That's kind of who we're following throughout these stories, and I just love these characters so much, and I thought the mystery was very intriguing. And this one was really fun because they actually go abroad to study forensics at like a castle school thing. I really enjoyed them, but the third and fourth books I think were flops, to be honest. First and second ones, great though. I don't know though, that's just my personal opinion because I just don't like romance drama, but I mean, if that doesn't really bother you, then I feel like you would still really like the third and fourth books. Oh, the next one was also like probably one of my favorite books of the year, like my actual favorite books of the year, and that was The Only One Left. So I was kind of on the fence about Riley Sager as an author because some of his books I've enjoyed and some of his books I haven't enjoyed so much, so I was just kind of teetering, I guess. And then when I read The Only One Left, I was like, this is a work of art. I love this book so much. The mystery was so good. It was so eerie. I loved the characters, like everything about it. I loved so much. Like, this one is probably in line with The Housemaid, if not above The Housemaid, like in my brain when I tier my books. It was phenomenal. And I loved it. Oof, the next one I had was In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. This one I already knew I was going to enjoy, and I had pretty high expectations for it because I have just heard a lot of really good things, and it lived up to the hype for sure. This one gave me Gossip Girl vibes. It was like mysterious. You don't really like the characters. Like, these characters are not very likable, but it's kind of in the best way because you're still just so intrigued by them, and it's just entertaining. Like, I feel like this book was just so entertaining, and the drama was like so entertaining versus annoying. The mystery itself and the whodunit type of thing, I didn't expect it, but it like made sense. Like, when they explained it, I was like, okay, yes, I can definitely see that happening. I give this one 5 stars, and I also read it in my Dark Academia reading vlog, which I will also link above. And then this month I recently read Holiday Romance, and I just love it so much. This book is so cozy, so good, so cute. If you're looking for like the perfect cozy, cute, funny little rom-com, For the Love please pick this up. I beg of you, because it is just absolutely adorable. 5 stars. Easy, easy, easy 5 stars. And then next I read Dark Matter, which I read in my 24-hour reading vlog, which I think is the last video that I posted. This one I ended up giving a 4 stars. And so this one follows our main character, Jason, and he's like a scientist, a physicist, I think. And so he gets kidnapped one day and he wakes up strapped to a gurney with people in hazmat suits like staring over at him. And he has absolutely no clue what's going on because his entire life and everything that has led up to this moment is now not a thing. And so he's trying to figure out if he's been living in a dream, if he like lost his memory, if he's been going crazy, or what's been going on. How does he get back to his family? How does he get back to his life that he thought that he lived up until that point? So it's pretty intense. This is classified as a sci-fi mystery thriller, and I would say that definitely aligns because the first half I feel like is more thrilling and it's definitely more fast-paced, and then kind of towards the middle and the end of the book it almost turns into like a literary fiction type of, or contemporary, I don't know, it turns into like a fiction of sorts because it's very eye-opening and it just kind of follows like his journey of like some self-realization and just what really matters in his life. And I don't know, it was very like, I don't even know the word. It was just very heartwarming and, like I said, very eye-opening, and I thought it was very cute. And then the last one that I really liked and that I actually just finished last night is The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. I read The Maid last year, absolutely loved it, gave it 5 stars. This one I loved again, but I think I liked certain parts of The Maid a little bit better. So The Mystery Guest, I think I rated like a 4.5 or 4.75. I can't remember, even though I literally just finished it last night. But I just feel like parts of this story could have been done a little bit differently and then it would have been a 5 star for me. Like I wanted more of Molly and her newfound relationship that we kind of got introduced to at the end of The Maid. And then I feel like certain parts of in this book were just a little bit irrelevant to the plot. Like I felt like it was kind of just like maybe filler, or I don't know. I just felt like there was a little bit more fluff than necessary when that content could have been focused more on like enhancing more of the actual plot. I don't know, but in this book I also really, really loved how we got more of Molly's background, and I love that she had some personal ties to the murder victim, and overall I just had a really, really good time with it. And as always, absolutely just love these characters so much. Whew, but that's it, guys. That was a lot of talking and that was a lot of books to go through, but I read 81 books this year so far in the year. I just realized my fire is not going anymore. That is awkward. Restarting that now. Anyway, like I said, I read about 81 books this year, so out of those ones, I had quite a few favorites, so I'm really, really proud of that. Let me know down below what some of your favorite books of 2023 were, and some of your DNFs or worst books of 2023. Thank you for watching all my Bookmas videos. This has been so much fun, and I'm so excited for the next couple videos. So with that said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Mwah.